But speaking of dead things, we have a Pistons fan up here. We gotta we gotta do it, man. What happened? What like because you have at least two hosts up here that fully believe that you guys could fight for a playing spot. 100% without a shadow of a doubt. You're speaking of one right now. I thought that hell, Bezos thinks Cade's Black Luka, and Sir Thompson, one of the best defenders in basketball. There's many reasons why a lot of people thought the Pistons would not be, by far and away the worst team, and they're not even like the Spurs. They're trying, and they're failing. What happened, man?
So I like the K Luka. I call him Luka Light usually, where I'm like, hey, if Cade, and I've always been like Cade in space. That's all I've ever wanted. But we don't have space on any of this. Like, so this coming into the season, winning 17 games, getting the 5th pick, and then we had getting Monty Williams. Everything was like, okay, what's going on? And then I think what really started the hope train was when Cade and Jalen Duren were like with Team USA. I think that was the main thing of them going viral. And it's like, there are times where it's like them two look like the best players on the court at the time. Like, and it was like, oh, okay, they're getting that chemistry, they're doing whatever. And then we start 2-1, and then the absolute just brakes fall off, right? And I think that it started with Jalen Duren getting hurt, right? And then you start to really see the cracks in the worst constructed roster in the NBA. Like, I think it is the worst front court. Like, as soon as Jalen Duren goes out, there was like, you go into games being like, there's no way that we're winning anything. Because if you have a competent big man, competent rim protector, a competent lob threat, it's over. Like, it's over. It's a wrap. The game's over. So that was the whole, like, everybody had to be full strength and all the stars had to align. But the fact is, there's so much to unpack with this team, right? This team does not take a lot of threes. They do not make a lot of threes. They turn the ball over a lot. They foul a lot. Like, so it's not even like you guys have all had like bad teams that y'all root for, and you're like, this is bad basketball, but like you have a stretch where like this is bad basketball, but there is at least something fun to like take out of the game where it's like, oh, someone hits a 3, we still down 15, but like look at that, we still got like players like developing, getting highlights. It was just absolute sadness in every game, watching and having to go on Twitter and read Cade Cunningham draft class of 2021 discourse for like the first stretch, being like, having to be like, wait, give this man, you see how he's playing, bro? And then like the thing is that I remember the Trae Young's rookie year where he would make like a fantastic play or fantastic pass, and it would be to like Alex Len in the corner, right? And you're like, if there's a shooter right there, that's a great play. That's an assist. And then Cade does the same thing, but it's Asar Thompson in the corner, and he's shooting like 16% from 3. So it's like one of those things where it's like the potential assist, you just got to sub him out for like players that can shoot. But the players that can like shoot, that are advertised to be able to shoot, can't shoot. Like, this is rough out here.
This is beyond ironic, bro. And I'm gonna let my other host cook here, but this is very ironic because me and Omar at least stayed up till like 2 a.m, harping with the community that guys, and we'll talk about Monty in a segment. We're like, guys, I want you to understand, we are not absolving Monty Williams, but that roster that he's dealing with is pretty fucking bad. And so it's ironic. The first frame one 10 minutes into the recording, the first thing a Pistons fan says is that they have the worst roster in the league. Being said, I guess we could talk if there's one thing that could get you at least W wins by the end of the season at this pace, right? What do you think that adjustment is needed for your Pistons? Does it have to be a roster move? Is it Monty Williams just getting better? Is it Monty getting the fuck out? What do you think the Pistons need to do to start winning more games?
So I think the thing is that I think a lot of Pistons fans, their anger is not with the players at all. I think it's like they come in playing, trying their hardest, and this losing for over like a 2-month span, that's gotta be difficult for anybody. Like the last time they had won before this recent win, the World Series was still going on. Like that was before Halloween, right? I went home on a flight, did Thanksgiving, then did Christmas, and the Pistons still hadn't won a game.
Stop.
Right? And every way I could spin this, every graphic, John Morant came back, went 3-0. Pistons had 2 wins total. Like everything. So
Yeah, it
But the
was
thing
bad.
is that
That's crazy.
Yeah.
you see
Bad.
every Pistons graphic shows up. It's just like, yo, I'm I'm out, right? But I think the thing that scares me with this front office is that even if they do make a move, I'm scared it's gonna go down and make a move that's gonna be like a short-term fix for a really long-term problem. And it's gonna like delay the rebuild even more, right? So I remember when Stan Van Gundy made the Blake Griffin trade and then was out the next year, and then Blake Griffin tries his best, and then he gets bought out, so we're not able to flip him for anything, and then we're still on this thing. I don't want Troy Weaver to make like a trade like that where it's like we're giving up what little assets we have for a player that is probably going to leave soon after, right? So I don't know. It's kind of cooked, man. It's kind of cooked.
I do
You
want to
don't
ask you real quick. My bad, Dom. Just real quick. During the losing streak, what was peak sadness? Because I would argue that before the streak ended, like it was some good basketball being played. I'm not gonna lie.
Where do I start? I think what happened was it was cool until that Wizards game. I think it was cool because we were losing, right? We were losing, and everybody was like, "Oh, tank bowl, tank bowl." Okay, and the Pistons, we were looking down the depth chart, looking at the schedule, and being like, "If there's one game, it's the Wizards." And then you lose that game by 19. That was like,
19.
oh wow, this is. I was like, there are somehow levels to being a bottom dweller right now, in terms of just like, yo, the Wizards put it, dude. The Wizards put in. I didn't expect to see Pistons Wizards garbage time. That's what I'm saying. I didn't expect to see like their bench. Like the Wizards emptied their bench, and I was like, yeah, that's a new low for me, man. I'm sorry, bro.
The Utah game was pretty bad, man. I ain't gonna lie. The timeline was very optimistic on y'all winning against the Utah Jazz with all those injuries. And when y'all couldn't pull that off, that's when it got serious to me. Like the losing streak, I'm like, oh God.
Yep.
But,
you saw the Jazz injury report, and you're like, hey, no Laurie.
yeah, no Clarkson,
No Clarkson.
no
Sexton or
THT.
someone else,
Like,
man.
jeez, bro.
I don't even think the coach play. I don't think the coach coached that game. I ain't gonna lie to you. No funny shit. No funny
For
shit.
real.
Dama, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna ask, because you said you feel like if they do make a move, it's gonna be a short-term game for a long-term like failure and mess up the rebuild. I mean, me being I will say, honestly, this summer I was the biggest Pistons advocate. I said y'all were a 40-win team. I said this team this team might be a 40-win team. I had y'all on the same boat as the Rockets in terms of y'all had vets, you had young guys that were supposed to take steps. And the USA thing definitely did it too. Seeing Cade and Jalen Duren link up and they really look that great amongst all the good talent on that court. I was like, yeah, that these guys got it. They're literally same pace as the Rockets is my frame of mind. Do you think that if y'all do make a move, and I'm a person since y'all drafted Jaden Ivey said that wasn't a move for y'all. I don't see him and Cade working together. So if y'all move some of these guys that kind of where you're stagnant at, because I feel like y'all stagnant at the center spot. Isaiah Stewart obviously isn't a power forward. Nope. He plays too similarly or has to do some of the same things that Jalen Duren has to do. And then off the bench, you have Marvin Bagley and James Wiseman, who essentially, again, do some of the same stuff. Like none of them stretching the floor for real. They're rim runners, and they're not the best rim protectors. So it lack of space and all that. If you move off of, say, a Stewart and Bagley, because I'm not too mad at Wiseman, but Stewart and Bagley, and you move over Jaden Ivey, let's say you get, I'm not going to say Zach LaVine, but you add some vets that are locked in for a year or two. You don't feel like that would, because y'all still have y'all pick. Obviously, y'all it was protected, but finish the season 5 and whatever, you're gonna obviously retain that pick. So retaining the pick and being able to get a potential top 5 player this year, add that with getting vets and whatever vets you can get in terms of a trade and trading some of these young guys away. You don't feel that would set you up long term to be better and kind of. Because I don't know. I don't feel like y'all should still be rebuilding. I think y'all have y'all core. I feel like y'all have y'all a strong base.
Look, I think so. The owner, so Tom Gore has recently talked to the press, and the quote he was like, "We were thinking about a play-in spot in like playoff, like we were thinking about that this year. However, their free agent activity doesn't really like line up with that, right? Mm-hmm. So if you look at now that after this losing streak, I'm looking back at what the Rockets did. And I know we clowned the Fred VanVleet contract. I know we like Dylan Brooks for 80. I think it was 4 years 80 or something like that. I'm looking back now and I'm like, yeah, that I would have liked for us to be more active on the free agent trail and like get like Cam Johnson was coming up in our on like people's like wish lists and all that stuff. But the feels like it's sad that it shouldn't take 28 straight losses for front office to be like, oh, maybe we should do something. Like this team is fundamentally broken. There's overlap. Like you said, there's player-to-player overlap that doesn't make sense, and also like the Sadiq Bey for Wiseman trade looks worse every day because of the overlap with Bagley and Wiseman. Bagley's getting like coached like DNP coaches' decisions right now, and he's been like statistically better than James Wiseman. So sometimes it's like I can't blame Monty Williams. Monty Williams is like, but then there's part of me that's like Monty Williams is also not helping his case here, but also it's like a cycle of being like, all right, but he hasn't been given. He's being given a puzzle, but pieces are missing. Then like there's pieces from another puzzle that just don't fit. Like it's just really weird to just like look at it and be like, I want to blame Monty, but I know that you just have not been put in a position to really succeed right now, honestly.
Well, we got 20 pieces to our puzzle because Andrew Sullivan was 20 gifted. Andrew Sullivan, appreciate the fuck out of you, my boy.
Yeah, shout out to Andrew for the 20 gifted, by the way.
Big Drew.
Big Andrew in the building.
I do want to say here, because, and maybe this is just, I understand why, especially as like a Pistons fan, you want to see people win or whatever the case may be. What is the fascination with getting W's right now? Like at the end of the day, even if let's say y'all were even semi-good, semi-competent, all this stuff like that, you max out at potential play-in. Like these people at their peak powers, not like what we said, like Cade truly becoming Luka, but just peak powers for a year 3 Cade Cunningham, a year 3 Jaden, year whatever these guys are in, peak powers, potentially playing, potentially winning a game, but truly like not making it out the first round. If all this is at the cost of like developing more, building better, and this is probably in the reference of like getting a Fred VanVleet or a Dylan Brooks, I honestly don't think it's worth it. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, all the things that are happening with the Rockets are great, and maybe some eggs got to be lost when this transition. But like low-key, I feel like Jalen Green is lost down in Houston. Like he doesn't know what the fuck is going on. He's trying to make the best out of whatever situation, but he's lost. What's the fascination with winning right now?
I think the fascination isn't with winning. I think it's with how we are losing. It's like, I think for me, I came in here, like people would ask like, what your predictions for wins? I'm like, I don't really care about the win-loss total right this year. I just want these players to be better than what they like are coming, like starting into the season. Then by the end of the season, I'm like, are you developing good habits? Are you like being able to like be like, adjusting to the NBA or whatnot, or like finding your role? And it feels like that wasn't there for a while, because now, and it feels like, and I feel like this is when my frustration with Monty Williams is, because we've had 17 different starting lineups in 32 games. Like players are getting the first month where it was like Killian Hayes was starting and Pistons fans were like, we want Ivy. Why is Killian Hayes playing off ball to Cade Cunningham? All of that. Why are we starting 2 bigs? Why is Wiseman in the rotation? And then the first couple of like weeks, it was like seeing how good Asar was defensively, but he was hitting the side of the backboard more often from the corner than like hitting the actual rim. Yeah. So it was like, so that was kind of like, dude, I'm getting sidetracked here, but Asar Thompson with just a corner 3, just like if he gets that, like I would be like, he becomes an infinitely better help on the Pistons offensively. But I digress. But I think it's just so much that it's like these players, they're losing, and it feels like they were like during this losing streak, they were not developing like any good habits, or like not learning from their mistakes. Like the turnovers, the lackadaisical turnovers. It's just like wild to like see a team and be in games for the 4th quarter, and then like one run, it's just gone, and then their body language gets defeated and all that stuff. So I think it's just how we're losing, where it's like it's just excruciating, and like it's year 4. It's year 4 of us hitting the absolute reset button, and we're still here. Like, I feel like there should be a little bit of a trend upwards. You know, I think that's the more disappointing part out of all of it.
Can I ask, with the Pistons, because going into the season, at the start of the season, y'all had relatively a lot of injuries. I want to say at the start of the year was Monty Morris, a guy I routinely bring up that I think will be able to help at least bring veteran guard like tendencies to the team. It will help in these late game situations where y'all do give up runs or just the offense stagnates after a timeout and it's a close game. Because I feel like y'all have lost the most close games in the NBA so far. It's crazy, but Monte Morris is out. Bogdanovich was out at the beginning of the season. I want to say Joe Harris mentally is injured. I don't know why he doesn't play basketball. Mentally, Joe Harris is hurt. Just any vets y'all had weren't available. I want to say Alec Burks was there at first, then had a period where he got hurt for a bit and then came back. Do you feel like that is the reason that y'all seen so many lineups as the Pistons? Because 17 starting lineups, I mean, if you got this many injuries and this much stagnation and not knowing what to do, like, wouldn't a mixture of lineups be the key? Because it wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't make sense if y'all went 20 straight games and you only had 2 starting lineups. I feel like we would still be at this conversation like, yo, this man Monty, he's a bum. He's not doing anything with these lineups. He's playing the same guy.
Conversation gets worse in my opinion.
I think there's a part of that is true, where it's like the people that were injured do affect the starting lineups. But however, there were some starting lineup decisions that just really shocked people, whether it was like picking up Kevin Knox. Kevin Knox didn't start the season on the team. Picking up Kevin Knox and giving him the start over before Jaden Ivey started, like really annoyed Pistons fans, because we were like, what is happening here? And then we've been begging for the 2 big lineup, but Monty Williams is just obsessed with playing Isaiah Stewart at the 4, where it's like, let's try something. Like, it's Monty Williams trying new stuff, but it's not the new stuff that like we want him to try, if that makes sense. Where it's like, and then the like, he plays 10 people like it's AAU, you know, the all bench lineups are painful. That is the most painful part of like the Detroit first five. You see in the first quarter, he puts that bench in and it's an instant like 10-0 run every time. Like, and I know that we never should go. I don't like plus minus as a stat like that. I don't think it really tells a whole story, but when it's that drastic, I feel like it's like, okay, this bench here, Alec Burks is minus 25. Why is he playing 30 minutes? Like, and stuff like that, where the rotations and like, it doesn't feel like there's any stability even with the people that have been here this whole time, where it's like sometimes he'll play Sasser and then Sasser will get a DNP. Sometimes Asar will play 20, 30 minutes. And then in other games, he'll play 8. And then like sometimes it's just like all over here. And I'm just like, what is, and again, it goes back to the fact that like this roster is terrible, but and he's trying to like make something happen, but there's not really anything to like do with it. But also the stuff that we want to ask, where it was like, hey, can we get 3 like even people that could like be any semblance of a floor spacing threat? Can we do like the Luka roster build, or do like the Luka roster lineup where it's like there's one guy, 3 floor spacers, lob threat?
Yeah.
Can we do that? We kind of can't, because it's Isaiah Livers and Alec Burks have been horrendous.
Not too much on Isaiah. Not too much on Isaiah.
But like they have been struggling from the shot, like from 3, and that like also like makes it a little bit frustrating as well. So
sounds like you guys definitely need to make a couple of trades. We have a trade to talk about. A Woj bomb bullet. Sparkle, I ain't gonna lie. But before we do that, before we talk about that, Persian, thank you for hitting the sub goal. We have finally hit the 1K mark for the first time in 2024. Thank you, Persian, with this pick.